Suki knelt on the ground, clutching his broken left arm, letting out shrill, agonized howls. I gripped a metal baseball bat, kicked him flat onto his back, and pressed my boot down hard on his face, grinding it slowly. Bold of you, kid. You dare take my wife to a hotel room? You got a death wish. Suki curled up on the ground, his left arm twisted at a grotesque angle, sweat pouring down his face from the pain. He turned his head and begged over and over. Mr. Lin. I'm sorry. I really know I was wrong. Please let me go. I didn't bother with his useless pleas. I kicked him away, pulled out my phone, and snapped a few photos of him. Then I opened Yanye's WeChat, sent her the photos, and added 2 lines of text. Your friend got on someone's bad side and got beaten up. I had him sent to the hospital for you. No need to thank me. The hospital room door slammed open. Yanya rushed inside, her face tight with worry. She spotted Suki in the hospital bed at once. He was propped halfway up, deathly pale, his left arm wrapped in thick bandages and slung across his chest. There was gauze on his forehead and dried, crusted blood at the corner of his mouth. When he saw Yanya, a flicker of panic crossed his eyes. Then he quickly looked away, glancing over at me. I leaned against the wall in the corner of the room, arms crossed, watching it all coldly. Yanya hurried to the bedside, knelt down, and asked Suki anxiously, Suki, what happened? Who did this to you? Suki opened his mouth but said nothing. His eyes darted toward me again, then flicked away just as fast. Yanya saw the whole exchange. Her face turned sharp as she turned to glare at me. She shot to her feet, marched over to me in 3 strides, and pointed a finger right in my face. Lin Yan, you did this, didn't you? Why would you do such a thing? You're so heartless. Before she could finish, I raised my hand and slapped her hard across the face. Smack! Her head snapped to the side. She stumbled sideways and crashed into the nightstand. The glass on the nightstand toppled over, spilling water all across the surface. She clutched her cheek, and tears burst from her eyes at once. You hit me? I ignored her outburst, reached out, and wrapped my hand around her throat. I lifted her off the ground and slammed her back against the wall. There was a dull thud as the back of her head struck the wall hard. She clawed at my hand around her throat, trying desperately to pry it off, but it was useless. Let go. I paid her no mind. I leaned in close, staring directly into her eyes. Yanya, you need proof to accuse someone. You say I beat him. Where's your proof? Witnesses? Physical evidence? Do you have security footage? She didn't answer, still thrashing in my grip. I went on. You have nothing. You come at me, pointing fingers just because of one little glance from him. I paused for a moment, then kept speaking. Get this straight, you are my wife. With no proof at all, you suspect your own husband over some random nobody. I'd really like to know. What am I to you exactly? With that, I flung her away. She crumpled to the floor, clutching her throat and coughing violently, tears streaming down her face. After a long moment, she caught her breath and looked up at me, terrified. Who else would do something like this but you? Her answer only deepened the disgust on my face. I stepped over to her and looked down. Yanya, you really make me sick. As I spoke, I bent down, grabbed a fistful of her hair, and hauled her to her feet. She screamed in pain at once. Let go of me. Lin Yan, let go. I ignored her screams, dragged her by the hair to the wall, and slammed her face first into it. Thud, thud, thud. Again and again I drove her head into the wall, the loud, heavy thuds echoing through the hospital room. After a dozen or more blows, I shoved her away hard and kicked her square in the back. Crack. She slid forward and slammed into the foot of the hospital bed. Blood trickled down from her forehead. The room fell silent, broken only by Suki's muffled groans and Yanye's ragged, gasping sobs where she lay on the floor. I pulled a document from the inner pocket of my jacket and tossed it down in front of her. The words divorce agreement were printed clearly across the top. Yanya, I'm not an unreasonable man. I'm giving you one chance. Sign it quietly, and this whole mess ends here. Yanya lay face down on the floor. At my words, she slowly lifted her head. When she saw the words divorce agreement before her, her pupils shrank to pinpricks. Her lips trembled, her teeth chattered, and it took her a long time to force out a sound. No, I won't sign. She pushed herself up and crawled slowly over to me, clutching my arm as she looked up. Her eyes were bloodshot, tears streaming down her face non-stop. Lin, I don't want a divorce. Hit me, yell at me, do whatever you want. Treat me any way you like. Just don't divorce me. Her voice was hoarse, thick with tears, every word forced out through a tight throat. Please, I'm begging you. Hearing her say that, even now, I let out a cold laugh. Yanya, do you know what I hate most? She blinked, stunned, and shook her head. I hate it when people try to bargain with me. I ripped my arm free of her grip and looked down at her. I know exactly why you won't sign. How did your family get to where they are? On the back of my name, Lin Yan. If we divorce, every partnership between our families will be terminated. And before long, the Yan family will cease to exist in Zhangcheng. When your father finds out, you'll be the first one he punishes. With every word I spoke, Yanya's face grew paler. By the end, she had hung her head, too afraid to look at me. I grabbed her hair again, yanking her head up to face me. I'm asking you one last time. Will you sign the divorce papers? And let me warn you, if you say no again, I won't hesitate to take more extreme measures. You think I got to where I am in Zhangcheng by being soft? Even now she kept shaking her head. No, I won't sign. Lin Yan, just let this go. I'll do whatever you say from now on. I'll never see Sukiya again, I promise. Just don't divorce me. Please. I stared into her eyes, paused for a few seconds, and smiled. Fine, you won't sign? You brought this on yourself. With that, I let go of her hair and turned toward the hospital bed. Suki had been huddled under the covers this whole time, watching us fight, too scared to make a sound. When he saw me walking toward him, his eyes went wide with terror. Lin Yan, what are you doing? His voice shook, his eyes filled with pure dread. I didn't answer. I pulled a dagger from my waistband. It had a black hilt, and the blade glinted cold and sharp in the light. Suki's eyes bulged. He threw off the covers and scrambled backward, pressing himself against the bed rail. His broken left arm was useless, so he pushed with his right hand, inching away as fast as he could. Mr. Lin, please, don't. I'm begging you. His voice cracked, thick with sobs. I ignored him and pressed my left hand down on his right leg. He tried to yank his leg back, but he had no strength to fight it. My hand clamped around his calf like a steel vise, my nails digging into his flesh. He hissed in pain. Mr. Lin, I really know I messed up. Just let me go. I'll never do it again. I'll leave Zhangcheng. Go far away. Never come back. I paid no attention to his begging. I raised the dagger and drove it hard into his thigh. Squelch. The blade pierced skin and muscle with a dull, wet sound. Blood gushed out at once, soaking the white bed sheets. Ah! A blood-curdling scream tore from his throat. Suki arched off the bed, his body convulsing as if he'd been electrocuted. He clutched his leg, trembling all over, letting out ragged, incoherent howls. It hurts. It hurts so bad. Ah! I stood there holding the blood-stained dagger, watching it all unfold calmly. Yanya stood a short distance away, frozen as if struck by lightning. Her eyes were wide, her mouth hanging open, no sound coming out. Her gaze darted between Suki's bleeding leg, the blood-soaked sheets, and the dagger in my hand. After a long moment she forced out a single word. You. I turned to look at her. Yanya, I'm asking you one more time. Sign. Or don't sign. I don't like hassle. I don't want to waste time on divorce court over this garbage. And if you say no again, making you disappear permanently is always an option. Yanya shook violently, her lips trembling, tears pouring down her face. Lin Yan, you're insane. This time I said nothing. I just stood there waiting for her answer. Yanya glanced at Suki, still screaming beside her, wiped the tears from her eyes, and finally picked up the divorce agreement from the floor. She held the pen over the signature line. After a dozen seconds, she bit down hard on her lip and scrawled her name in the signature box. The moment she finished the last stroke, the pen slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. Then she collapsed to her knees, burying her face in her hands and breaking into loud, heaving sobs. I bent down to pick up the agreement, blew off the stray ink flecks from the fresh signature, folded it neatly, and slipped it back into the inner pocket of my suit. Then I walked to the door, pulled it open, and stepped outside. This hospital was privately owned by the Lin family. I'd given the staff a heads up beforehand, so no one had come to interfere despite all the noise. I glanced at the bodyguard beside me and said, "Tell the hospital staff to clean up the mess in there." With that, I headed for the exit, the several bodyguards around me hurrying to follow. I walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, the freshly issued divorce certificate in my hand. I closed the booklet and tucked it into my pocket when Yan Ye's
voice
suddenly reached my ears. "Lin Yan, is there really no chance for us to get back together?" I turned around and found her standing still behind me, staring at me. "Yan, from this moment on, we have nothing to do with each other. Who you see, what you do from now on, none of it is my business. And I won't come after you either." She bit her lip, tears welling in her eyes. "But," my voice turned icy sharp, "if you ever dare come after me again, cause a scene in front of me or make trouble for me, I won't give you another chance." She opened her mouth to say something, but no sound came out. Tears rolled down her cheeks and dropped onto the divorce certificate in her hand. I didn't look at her again. I turned and headed for the parking lot. The driver stood by the car in the distance. The second he saw me, he hurried over to open the rear door for me. "Mr. Lin?" I nodded and bent down to get in. The leather seat wrapped around me, and the cold air from the AC shut out the noise of the outside world. The driver closed the door, walked around to the driver's seat, and started the engine. The Maybach pulled smoothly out of the parking lot and merged into traffic. On the steps of the Civil Affairs Bureau, Yanya still stood there, clutching her divorce certificate, staring in the direction I'd left. The wind billowed the hem of her clothes like a flag on the verge of snapping. The driver glanced at me in the rearview mirror. "Back to the office, Mr. Lin?" The car sped up, turned a corner, and the Civil Affairs Bureau building vanished from the mirror. It was already dark when the door to the Yan family villa swung open. Yanya stood in the entryway, clutching the divorce certificate so tight her nails dug into the cover. The main living room light was off. Only the wall lamps were on, casting dim yellow light across the marble floor and stretching long shadows across it. A figure sat on the sofa. Yan Chengwei was there, the ashtray on the coffee table in front of him overflowing with cigarette butts. He looked up at the sound. "You're back?" Yanya flinched. "Dad." She hid the divorce certificate behind her back, but Yan Chengwei had already seen it. "What's that in your hand?" "Nothing." "It's nothing. Bring it here." Yanya stood frozen. Yan Chengwei stood up and looked at her. He was 58, overweight with a paunch, but there was no softening the sharp, vicious edge to him. He walked over to Yanya, reached out and snatched the little green booklet from her hand. He flipped it open and glanced down. Smack! The divorce certificate was slammed hard onto the floor. "Yanya!" he roared, the veins on his forehead bulging. "Look at the mess you've made!" Smack! He slapped her hard across the face. Yanya stumbled backward and crashed into the shoe cabinet, the back of her head hitting the corner. Pain burst through her skull and tears flooded her eyes at once. She clutched her cheek and crouched on the floor, too afraid to look up. "Dad, you what?" Yan Chengwei fisted a hand in her hair and hauled her to her feet. "Yanya, do you have any idea what you've done?" Yan Chengwei stood over her, glaring down, his eyes bloodshot. "Lin Yan cancelled every single partnership between our families the second he divorced you. 4 projects. 4. He held up 4 fingers and waved them in her face. "All of them shut down. Do you have any idea what that means?" Yanya cowered on the floor, trembling all over. "Dad, I didn't know it would be like this." "You didn't know?" Yan Chengwei kicked her hard in the leg. She toppled over and slammed into the leg of the coffee table. "You didn't know? You dare say you didn't know now?" He bent down, grabbed her by the collar, hauled her up, and slammed her down onto the coffee table. The teapot tipped over, spilling water all across the surface. Yanya's cheek pressed against the cold glass tabletop, tears streaming down the bridge of her nose. Dad, please. Stop hitting me. Stop hitting you. Yan Chengwei picked up the ashtray from the table and waved it in front of her face. Do you have any idea how much money this family has lost because you messed around with that pretty boy? Yanya shook her head wildly. Dad, I really know I was wrong. Knowing you're wrong doesn't fix shit. Yan Chengwei slammed the ashtray down hard on the table. Right next to her face, crack. A spider web of fissures split across the glass. Tabletop. Yanya screamed, curling up with her hands over her head. Yan Chengwei let go of her and stepped back, breathing heavily. He paced back and forth across the living room twice, kicking over a vase and knocking a chair to the floor. Then he walked back and stood over her again. Get up. Yanya slowly pulled herself to her feet. Yan Chengwei stared at her and spoke slowly, enunciating every word. You listen to me good. You will find a way to fix this marriage. Yanya's head shot up. Dad, no. No what? You have the nerve to say no? Yanya dropped to her knees at once, clutching the leg of his pants and begging desperately. Dad, you don't understand. Lin Yan, he's a monster. He'll never forgive me. He warned me not to show my face in front of him ever again. I can't go see him again. Please, Dad. She was sobbing so hard she could barely breathe. He'll beat me to death. I know he will. Yan Chengwei looked down at her. Smack. Another hard slap across her face. You brought every bit of this on yourself. If you hadn't messed around with that pretty boy, none of this would have happened. Yanya clutched her face, crying too hard to speak. Do you have any idea what people are saying about me out there? Yan Chengwei's voice rose louder and louder. They say my daughter cheated on her husband, got thrown out, got divorced. You've dragged the Yan family name through the mud. He pulled out his phone, scrolled through it a few times, and hurled it at her feet. The screen showed the company's financial statements, the red numbers glaring. Look at this. Look how far the stock's fallen. How many times the banks called in their loans. How many suppliers have cut us off. Yanya stared at the numbers, trembling all over. Dad, I really had no idea. There's a lot you don't know. Yan Chengwei kicked her hard, knocking her to the floor. Yanya, you listen to me and you listen good. If you don't fix this marriage, you get the hell out of this house. And never come back. Yanya's eyes went wide with terror. Dad, you can't I? Yan Chengwei let go of her and stood up straight. Your mother died young. I raised you all by myself. Gave you the best food, the best clothes, spent more money on you than anything. And this is how you repay me? Yanya lay on the floor trembling, tears streaming down her face, her mind a total mess. On one side was Lin Yantha, man who'd hit her, yelled at her, humiliated her, stabbed Suki. On the other was her father, the man who'd given her life, raised her, and now was throwing her out of the house. She closed her eyes and after a long moment, slowly opened them again. Dad, I'll do it. A flicker of light returned to Yan Chengwei's eyes. She bit her lip, tears running into her mouth. No matter what it takes. I'll make him take me back. At Cloud Peak, the most exclusive club in Zhengcheng, I stood on the terrace with a glass of whiskey, chatting with a few old friends. Lin Jie heard you dump that young girl? Xiao Yu leaned in, lowering his voice, his eyes sparkling with gossip. Damn, that's cold. She's a real looker. You really that okay with it? I swirled the whiskey in my glass. Pretty as she might be, what's the point when she's dirty? Just as we were deep in conversation, someone came rushing up the stairs. The second I saw Yanya's face come into view, I frowned. What the hell is she doing here? Yanya was dressed in plain clothes. She spotted me standing not far away at once and ran straight for me. Lin Yan! She screamed and threw herself in front of me, then dropped to her knees with a dull thud on the cold marble floor. The whole terrace went quiet. Every eye turned toward us. The rich young heirs stood there with their drinks, staring wide-eyed at the scene. Some whispered to each other, some whistled, some pulled out their phones to record. Lin Yan, please. Yanya knelt there, looking up at me, her eyes red and raw, tears rolling down her cheeks. Let's get back together. Please. Just give me one more chance. I stared at her with icy cold eyes. Yanya, you forgot every warning I gave you last time we met, didn't you? She ignored me, begging harder. Lin Yan, I know I was wrong. I really know I messed up. Hit me, yell at me, do whatever you want. Just please don't leave me. I stepped back, frowning at her. Yanya, I'll say this one last time. Get lost. She acted like she hadn't heard, crawling closer. If you don't forgive me, I won't get up. I'll stay. Right here on my knees until dawn. Low chuckles rippled through the crowd. People murmured to each other. Teske, isn't that the Yan girl who got caught cheating? Heard she ran off with some pretty boy, and Lin Jie caught her red-handed. And now she has the nerve to beg to get back together? Unbelievable. She's got some real nerve. The laughter grew louder. Yanye's face burned bright red, but remembering what her father had said, she kept begging. Lin Yan, please. My dad's kicking me out of the house. You're the only one who can help me. Please save me. Smack! Before she could finish, I slapped her hard across the face. The blow sent her stumbling sideways and she crumpled to the floor. Yanya, I gave you a chance. I crouched down, fisted a hand in her hair, and wrenched her face up to look at me. What did I say when we got divorced? She sobbed, unable to speak. I said you were never to show your face in front of me again. I said if you ever dared come after me again, I wouldn't give you another chance. Did you think I was joking? Smack! Another slap. Smack! A third. She clutched her cheek, curled up on the floor, trembling all over. Lin Yan, stop. Please. I ignored her, stood up, and kicked her hard in the stomach. Thud. With a cry of pain, she slid backward and slammed into the leg of a liquor table. Glasses toppled off the table, drenching her in champagne. A huge patch of her white dress was soaked through. She looked as pathetic as a drowned rat. Lin Yan, how can you be so cruel? She lay face down on the floor, lifting her head, tears running down her face mixed with champagne. We were married, for God's sake. Married? I laughed, a cold, bitter laugh. When you snuck around behind my back and went to a hotel with that pretty boy, did you remember we were married? When you stormed into the hospital to accuse me and yell at me for his sake, did you remember we were married? Yanya, you want to talk about being married now? I walked over and kicked her again, this time in the shoulder. She rolled over and slammed into the wall. Who's in charge here? Get out here now. Do you just let random crazy women cause a scene here and do nothing about it? Is this how you treat your guests? No sooner had I finished speaking than a man in his 40s came hurrying over. Mr. Lin, this was entirely our oversight. As compensation, everything you order here tonight is on the house. With that, the manager immediately called security to drag Yanya out. Yanya struggled the entire way. Let go of me! You can't do this to me! Let go! Her voice faded farther and farther away, until it vanished around the stairwell corner. The banquet hall fell quiet for a few seconds. Soon enough, someone stepped in to smooth things over. Come on, let's drink. Don't let this ruin the mood. The crowd slowly dispersed, going back to their own groups, as if nothing had happened. Only I stood silent, staring in the direction they dragged her away. I hadn't wanted to make a big deal out of this, but it was clear now this woman wouldn't let it go. If that's how it was, I'd have to take more extreme measures. I had no intention of going through something like this ever again. After Yanya was thrown out, the pressure from her father only grew worse. Just as she was trying to figure out what to do next, a man appeared in front of her. Yanya stepped back instinctively. Who are you? The man said nothing. He pulled a folded note from his pocket, pressed it into her hand, and left. She looked down and slowly unfolded the note. There was only one line written in black ink. If you want to see Suki, come see me alone. Yanya recognized my handwriting at once. Without a second thought, she hailed a taxi and headed straight for my villa. There was a knock at the gate of my private villa. The second it swung open, Yanya rushed inside. She grabbed my arm, panic-stricken. What happened to Suki? What did you do to him? I brushed her hand off me and walked into the living room. She hurried after me. Lin Yan, where is he? Watching her frantic state, I picked up the remote and turned on the TV. The second the image came on screen, Yanya's pupils shrank to pinpricks. On the screen was an abandoned high-rise building. Gray concrete walls, most of the window glass shattered. A rusted steel beam jutted out from the roof. Hanging from the end of the beam was a man. Sukiya. His hands were tied behind his back, the other end of the rope fastened to the beam. He dangled in midair. The wind was strong, swinging his body back and forth. The footage was silent, but it was clear he was screaming and sobbing, completely broken. Yanya froze for several seconds, then let out a sharp, piercing scream. Ah! She screamed and threw herself at the TV, staring at Suki's swinging body on the screen. Then she whirled around and lunged at me. Lin Yan! You're insane! Why would you do this? Before she could finish, I kicked her hard. She went flying and crashed heavily to the floor. I walked over to her and looked down at her calmly. After a long moment, she slowly pushed herself up and looked at me, her voice shaking. Lin Yan, you're a monster. A monster? I let out a cold laugh. Yanya, I gave you a chance before. I told you not to come after me again, but what did you do? You caused a scene in front of all those people, humiliated me in public. If I didn't do something about it, you'd really think I was made of clay, wouldn't you? All of this? You brought it on yourselves. She stared at me, tears streaming down her face. I'm sorry. I really know I was wrong. Please, let him down. I looked at her and said, I can let him down. He's at the abandoned chemical plant west of the city. Go save him yourself. And remember, you go alone. No sooner had I finished than she ran for the door, desperate. The sound of Yanya's car faded away outside the villa. I stood by the window, watching her taillights turn the corner and vanish. Then I walked back to the sofa, sat down, and picked up my phone from the coffee table. The TV was still on, showing the roof of the abandoned building, the steel beams stretching out over empty air. Suki still hung below it, swaying. The wind seemed to have picked up, swinging his body back and forth like a pendulum. I dialed a number. Someone picked up right away. Mr. Lin. Pull him up. I want to talk to him. Yes, sir. After I hung up, I leaned back against the sofa and watched the screen. On screen, a man in black stepped out of the shadows on the roof. He walked to the base of the beam, bent down, grabbed the rope, and hauled it up hard. Pull after pull, Suki's body slowly rose up from below the beam. Once he was pulled up, he collapsed on the roof, shaking like a leaf. His pants were completely soaked through. The man in black crouched down and held him by the shoulders. Then he pulled a phone from his pocket and held it to Suki's ear. My voice came through the phone. How does it feel, Suki? Suchi's hoarse, shaking voice came back at once. I'm sorry, Mr. Lin. I was wrong. I really know I messed up. Please. Please let me go. I'll never do it again. I'll never see her again. I'll leave Zhongcheng. Go far away, please. Don't kill me. I paused for a moment, then said, after I got divorced from that woman. I had no intention of messing with your garbage lives ever again. But even though I wanted nothing to do with it, Yanya wouldn't leave me alone. She crashed my party and caused a scene, humiliated me in front of everyone. So this is all her fault. The mess you're in right now? It's because of her. She dragged you into all this. She's the reason you're like this. As I finished speaking, I could clearly hear Suki's breathing grow heavier and heavier. Suki, I'll give you one chance. Do this, and I'll never bother you again. At that, Suki asked eagerly, What? What do you want me to do, Mr. Lin? Take care of this problem for me. How do I do that? His voice was shaking violently. That's for you to figure out. I don't care how you do it. Just make sure she never shows her face to bother me again, and I'll leave you alone forever. Stay in Zhongcheng. Leave, I don't care either way. There was a long silence on the other end, only heavy breathing and the occasional gust of wind. Then Suki spoke. Brother Lin. You mean it? Of course. Fine, I'll do it. The wind on the roof was fierce. When Yanya pushed open the rusted iron door, the wind blew her hair all over her face. She brushed it away, gasping for breath. Running from the parking lot to the top floor of the abandoned building, a dozen flights of stairs had left her breathless. The bruise on her knee throbbed with sharp, stabbing pain. She looked up and saw Suki sitting on the edge of the roof, leaning back against a rusted iron post, his legs stretched out in front of him. He was slumped there, limp as a rag, his pants soaked through from the thighs down. Yanya froze for a second, then ran over to him. Suki. She dropped to her knees in front of him, cupping his face in both hands and lifting his head up. Suki, are you okay? Suki's eyes slowly drifted to her, empty and blank, like he didn't recognize her. Suki, it's me, Yanya. Suki's lips moved. Yanya, yes, it's me, I'm here. Tears poured down Yanya's face. She checked him over from head to toe, and found no new injuries on his body. That was a relief. Did they hit you? Hurt you? Suki shook his head. No. They just hung me up for a while. Then, pulled me back up. Yanya cried harder at that. She wrapped her arms around Sukiya and buried her face in his shoulder. I was so scared. I thought you were gonna die. I thought he'd actually kill you. Suki let her hold him, motionless. After a while Yanya let go and stood up. She wiped the tears from her face and looked down at him. Then her expression shifted from fear and worry to disdain. She curled her lip. I knew it. Suki looked at her confused, clearly not following. I knew he didn't have the guts. There was open scorn in Yanya's voice. Hung you up all that time, and in the end he still had to let you down. If he really wanted to kill someone, he would have done it already. Why bother scaring me? She patted Suki on the shoulder. I'm just glad you're okay. I'll go home and freshen up, then go find him at his office tomorrow. You're going back to see him? Suche's voice was quiet. Of course I am. Yanya looked at him like it was the most obvious thing in the world. How else am I going to get him to remarry me? Suki's eyes went wide. You know what? I get it now. Yanya went on. Lin Yan's all bark and no bite. He hits me, yells at me, scares me. But he never actually does anything to hurt me for real. At the party last time he just had me thrown out. And this time? He hung you up, but he still let you down, didn't he? So if I just keep pushing, keep showing up, he'll cave eventually. He'll remarry me. Then I'll still be the Yan family's young lady. I'll have everything I want, and no one will dare mess with me. Suki stared straight at her face. Aren't you scared? That he'll actually do it? Scared of what? Yanya laughed. If he wanted me dead, I'd be dead already. Why wait this long? It was true that Yanya cared about Suki, but she also could not bear to give up her status and the wealth she enjoyed. If forced to choose, neither mattered more than the other. When Suki was in danger, she would move heaven and earth to save him. But the second he was safe, she would move heaven and earth to hold on to her position and privileges. Otherwise, when her father threatened to disown her, she would not have backed down so easily. At the end of the day, she was the kind of person who wanted it all. She would never give up anything she desired. Yanya brushed the dust off her dress. Come on, let's go. I'll take you back to the hospital. Your legs still hurt. Don't stand out here in the wind. She turned and took 2 steps toward the stairwell. Then Suchi's voice came from behind her. Yanya. She turned back and saw he was still sitting on the ground. What is it? You said he doesn't dare kill people? Yanya frowned. What are you getting at? Suki slowly lifted his head. His face was deathly pale, his lips trembling. But there was something in his eyes, a wild, desperate madness that only comes when you are pushed to the very edge. He stared at her and spoke slowly, every word sharp. He might not dare kill people, but he dared hang me. Dozens of meters up, swinging in the wind. The rope scraping against the beam, creaking. Do you have any idea how scared I was? Yanya froze, staring at him in shock. I pissed myself. My pants were soaked. His voice rough. Suki went on. You know why? Because I thought the rope was gonna snap. I thought I was gonna die. I thought any second I'd fall dozens of meters and smash into pulp on the ground. His eyes reddened. He told me before. He didn't want to bother with us anymore. But you had to go cause trouble, had to keep hounding him. That's why he came after me. He said this is all your fault. That you're the reason I'm like this. Yanya stepped back. Suki, don't let him turn you against me. Turn me against you? Suki laughed, a strange, eerie laugh. Is he wrong? If you hadn't gone after him, if you hadn't kept hounding him, would he have come for me? Would I be like this? Yanya, you say you love me, but every single thing you do shoves me deeper into hell. Yanya's face went white. Suki, just listen to me. No. You listen to me. Leaning on the iron post, Suki slowly pulled himself to his feet. He swayed unsteadily, and it took all his strength to stay upright. You just said you're gonna go find him again, keep hounding him, get him to remarry you. What about me? Have you ever stopped to think about how I feel? Yanya opened her mouth but no words came out. Aren't you scared next time he won't just hang me? That he'll just drop me? Suki limped toward her. Yanya, tell me the truth. Do you want me dead? No. That's not. Yanya shook her head wildly. Suki, just calm down. I can't calm down. Suchi's voice shifted, going from rough and hoarse to sharp and shrill. He told me if I could make you stop hounding him, he'd leave me alone for good. I thought it'd be easy. But now I see I was wrong. Slowly, he pulled a dagger from his coat. The blade glinted cold in the sunlight. The man in black had given it to him when they pulled him up. He'd tried to refuse, but the man had forced it into his hand. Yanya's pupils shrank to pinpricks. Suki. What? What are you doing? Suki said nothing. He gripped the knife and limped toward her. I'm sorry, Yanya. Suki, don't do this. Yanya backed away, until she was at the very edge of the roof. The steel beam was right behind her, and beyond it, dozens of meters of empty air. Murder's a crime, you'll go to prison. Suki stopped. Prison? He looked down at the knife in his hand. When I was hanging up there, I thought I was gonna die. You know what I was thinking then? Yanya shook her head hard. I was thinking if I survived, I'd never let myself end up in that position ever again. He looked up at her. And you? You're the reason I ended up there. As long as you're alive, as long as you keep hounding him, I'll never be safe. Tears streamed down Yanya's face. Suki, I promise, I'll never go see him again. You have to believe me. Suki shook his head. I'm sorry. I'm not gambling my life on your promises. As he spoke, he drove the knife hard into Yanya's stomach. Squelch. Yanya's eyes went wide. She stared down at the knife, the hilt sticking out of her abdomen, blood welling up around the blade and soaking through her dress. She looked up at Suki, disbelief written all over her face. I'm sorry. Suki pulled the knife out. Squelch. A second stab. Squelch. A third. Then a fifth, a sixth, a seventh. He did not stop until Yanya collapsed to the ground, completely still, no breath left in her. Suki stood there frozen, the bloodied knife in his hand, his whole body shaking. His face was pale, tears streamed down his face and his lips trembled. Finally he dropped the knife and ran, fleeing into the distance. Not far away, in the shadows of the stairwell, the man in black silently closed his phone. He'd recorded the entire murder on screen. Not long after, 2 photos appeared on my phone. The first was of Yanya lying in a pool of blood on the ground. The second was of Suki being led away by the police. I stared at them for a few seconds, then set my phone down and shook my head. I just wanted that woman to stop showing up and ruining my day. That's not too much to ask, is it? I never expected things would end up like this. I really don't get what was going through that woman's head. This story warns us that loyalty is the bottom line of marriage. Greed and obsession will eventually lead to tragedies. The wife betrayed her husband and had an ambiguous affair with another man. After being exposed, she refused to repent and pestered him for reconciliation, ruining their marriage, dragging down her family, and involving the third party. The third man, who only relied on her temporarily, was filled with resentment after suffering extreme fright, and eventually committed murder in a fit of impulse, dragging both into disaster. Though the husband acted drastically, the root cause lay in the wife's betrayal of marital trust and lack of gratitude. Betrayal in relationships will only trigger hatred and destruction. Only by staying faithful and measured and refusing illusory romance can we prevent irreversible sorrow.